And welcome. I already see our first arrival. He's like, tag, I'm here first. And that is David Beck with a welcoming string of emojis. So let's see what we got here. We got a castle because yes, this entire project is about building a lightning detector. And listen, we've been working on this for quite some time, but we're getting to the end here. I'm getting pretty excited. And of course, I can't tell if that's a dog or a horse. So if it's a horse, then it's got to represent Frau Blücher. Okay, it's quiet. I don't hear any horses. Yeah, maybe we can call her FB, to fool the horses. And if it's a dog, well, then he is probably referring to our past puppy sitting stream where I was trying to paint. It was either this castle or this cliff right here, and I didn't have a puppy sitter. And normally Ripley is awesome. But for this stream only, she decided, I'm going to chew through everything you have at the shop. Power cords, tools. There was a Dremel, incident. So that was a tough stream, but we got through it. Things got painted. So all in all, it was a success. Then we have, here he goes again with the chicken drumsticks. This is kind of like a lunchtime stream. So I'm like, we always talk about the Hungry Man TV dinners and how they used to be my favorite. So now I'm going to have that chicken drumstick in the back of my head, and maybe it'll encourage me to saw faster, staple faster. Things might be crooked that way to get to my chicken drumsticks in the fridge. And then of course our lightning cloud, because yes, all in all, this is a lightning detector. So today we are going to be building a shadow box for this arched window frame we created a while back, which is also going to double as a lightning detector. Yeah, more on that later. I'm Rachel DeBarros, and thanks for watching Gearhead Diva. So I say let's get started. This was pretty much the first thing that we ever built, and I'll give you guys a closer look here. And the stone effect turned out awesome because remember this problem corner? We had miter situations that look like this, major gaps in how I was trying to estimate and how to cut these things. But the spackle did a great job of covering all that up. I molded the rest of it. So underneath here is just a piece of PVC trim and 2/4 round moldings of different sizes to kind of create this outer half round looking thing. And the nice thing about it is that probably the better view is this way. If you look this way, there's an overhang. So that's going to allow us to kind of hide lighting back here if we want to do an ambient lighting that basically spreads out from the light. There's also going to be an overhang down on the inside, hopefully, that we can create so we can hide lighting inside here that shines down on the castle in our night scene. So this is about 2 to 3 coats of our plaster, and it turned out pretty good. My only complaint is that it is very white. It is like chiclet level white. So I think today we're going to try and do something about that, because if you look at the castle, and I'm just going to rest this on me, I'm going to wear it like a necklace or something. If you look at the castle, it looks pretty dingy, dirty, and if you look at Frankenstein's tower, this is where he conducts the experiments, well, it's kind of broken, and then we have a pristine white arch. Yeah, we got to fix that. We got to dirty this up a little bit, but we'll figure that out after we build our shadow box and make sure all of our pieces fit in. And if you notice, not all of it is 100% complete. Of course, we got a big old white section over here, which I'm going to base coat black and use a similar painting technique to our castle. And this little purple guy here is coming off. But all in all, I think the cliff effect ended up looking really great. And the colors are very, I use similar colors, but different painting techniques. So dry brushing and more of a wet ink, technique here, just to give things a different look, but still be in the same color palette. So all in all, I think they're going to match up pretty well. And let me get this ridiculous thing off me for a second. I'm going to put it back here. And if you take a close look here, the castle structure does look pretty good. And let me move that to where you guys can see it with the actual castle. It looks like it blends. And what I'm going to do is remove this purple part. I left it here to remind me to do this or else I'm going to forget. And then I'm going to take some of this foam, crumble it so it looks like rubble, and build it right up to the castle. So any of these like little tiny gaps here, I'm going to fill up with, I call it the blue cheese crumbles. We're just going to do that and paint it similarly. And then this is kind of still somewhat part of the castle, and this is the road, you know. Hopefully it looks treacherous enough so our pitchfork townsfolk will stay away from our situation. I have plenty of windows so that way our interior lighting scheme can shine through, and we're going to be creating an exterior lighting scheme. So in order to do that, probably a good idea for me to start building this shadow box first, just so we can start planning out where things are going to go, like wiring, battery packs, that kind of thing. So I'm going to move this to the side, and we have a couple more people joining. Robert McSween is back. Love the t-shirt. Did you check out the info on the Rob Zombie edition? Yeah, so now I have my eyeballs on that remake. And the reason I'm wearing the Munsters shirt was that this was so nearly a Munsters project. We were still going to make the lightning detector portion of the project, but I was toying with, you know, which classic monster movie or TV series to go with. And Frankenstein just like inched out a win, you know, by 2 neck bolts. You know, he inched out that win. But because the Munsters was that very close second, well, we got to celebrate them too. And that would have been a different build, perhaps the inside of the Munsters mansion, and we could animate the stairs coming up with the monster underneath the stairs. So there would have been a ton of fun doing that project as well. And who knows, I might go back and we need to do a Munsters project, right? We'll figure something out. So post your ideas for a Munsters project. It can be electronic, it can be woodworking, however you deem. Heck, we'll build a staircase here and have it open up as we get more people coming on board. You know, every comment it opens up. That'd be a lot of opening up though. And then Valley of Fire saying, hey Rachel, LA Walker is also joined us, and he's always bringing flowers and crowns and awesome stuff. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get this finished up, because you see poor Castle Frankenstein doesn't have any roofs, just a little bit there with the white, and I'm going to finish this up, and then we can start wiring this thing next week. But before we do that, let's try and figure out a, you know, shadow box situation. So here we have our background, our night sky, and this is something that we painted together using a Bob Ross tutorial as a guide. Now, of course, Bob Ross paints with oil, and we did this with acrylic. So the looks are always a little different. Acrylic is more dry looking, whereas the oil is more of a wet on wet technique. And that's why Bob Ross's paintings always look so like creamy smooth and just like peaceful. You know, you look at all of them. Ours, you know, it's the lightning's coming. It's got to not look so peaceful. It's got to look very, you know, tumultuous. And so that's what we have going on with ours. And then David Beck is saying blue cheese crumbles go well with drumsticks. Oh, stop it with the food. It was my idea to do this like lunchtime stream, because yes, you catch people on the East Coast, Mountain Central, all the way up to, you know, West. Yeah, I think I got all the time zones there, or Pacific. So everyone will be entering their lunch, you know, and posting up their lunches, and I'll be like, delicious. And then I'll like make several lunches after this. That way I can touch upon everything that you guys are having. But I'll give you guys a closer look at what we did. Now, through time, this has gotten kind of dirty. You see some white here. I'm going to wipe it down with a cloth rag just to kind of bring the color back. But we have our night scene, and then I put these away because I was like, we're done with them. But no, I lied. We're not done with them. And I'm going to move myself. We're going to have this sitting here, and then we're going to be taking some EL wire and creating like a lightning bolt that comes down. Now, I've already gotten some lightning bolt pictures. I know David has posted on Discord. So members, head over onto Discord. There you can actually post pictures, short little animations. So that way we get ideas on what we want to build, how we want to lay this out. Some of you have actually drawn little hand-drawn Photoshop drawings too, to give me an idea of what to add. So I'm always open. These are all based on your suggestions. So we start a project one way, and then it sometimes will end up completely a different way, which is a good thing because it ends up better that way. It's a community build. So with our EL wire, we are going to go ahead and have that go off every time the lightning detector senses a bolt of lightning within 40 kilometers. Now the lightning detector works in kilometers. I'm debating whether or not to change that to miles because of one issue that I'll throw at you guys in a little bit here. The other thing we're going to do is take cotton balls or any type of cotton material and kind of stick them here as if clouds and create thunder clouds. And those also will go off with our lightning detector. And then we're going to have our ambient lighting because it's kind of lame if this thing only goes off if there's lightning. We haven't had much lightning, so it'd just be off the whole time. So I thought about creating a non-lightning lighting scheme. Yeah, so maybe some lights that are blue and it's a nighttime and it's shining down on the castle, some flickering flame looking effects inside the castle. And then some of you have suggested, well, Dr. Frankenstein, or Frankenstein, I've been mispronouncing his Young Frankenstein name this entire time, putting some kind of blue LED that just kind of sparkles on and off for Tesla coils and perhaps things that have gone wrong. So here comes a quick cat. And then Laser Geek Creations has joined us too. Mickey Me has joined us, and Kit Angel Arts has joined us, and it looks like we're getting rated on Twitch, so that's awesome. Thank you so much. And let's see, I'm officially moving these out of the way. I promise. You're never gonna see them again. Actually, you will, but not for right now. And Laser Geek Creations, hello. Mr. Frightful, oh wow, everyone making castles. I know, all of a sudden, it's a thing, Besides, it's a lot of fun, and ours is made with dollar foam core from the dollar store. So perhaps out of everyone streaming castle making, perhaps mine is the cheapest. Oh yeah, I win the cheap award for that. And then we have a Diorama Llama. Hey, what's up? And thank you all for joining. And let's see, where was I? So, Shadowboxes. Yes, enough with castles, although that's kind of the theme of this entire project. So, we're going to have our frame like this, but I quickly noticed an issue, and this is something that I've been toying with and battling since the beginning, and that is, well, how thick, I know I lied here, it's coming back again. It's coming back again. How thick is this thing? And let me give you guys a better view here. So I measured, this is about 2¼ inches, which makes it poke out of our window. And you know what? I guess we could have it poke out of the window, but when you look out a window, you're looking out at a scene in the distance. So it doesn't make quite much sense. And also it's going to be extremely difficult to hide our lighting here because you're going to be able to see it. So I wanted to create more of a shadow box, like raise this up, but not too much raising, because the last thing I want is some kind of shadow box that sticks out like 5 feet from the wall. That's kind of a major obstruction in the shop here. So instead, let's try and figure out a width that's gonna be kind of in between, but work for everybody. So what I've done, because it's been kind of a rainy situation, I didn't know what the rain situation was gonna be for today, I pre-cut a lot of the archways, and we're gonna figure out how many of them we're gonna need and come up with a strategy for putting all this together. And then Kit Angel Art saying an arched archival window. Yes, so it's somewhat of a medieval, feel. And let's see, so I have this window here, and I figured I cut out 2 additional arches, and each of these are 3/4 inch plywood, and I figured if we put them together, and does it fit over my arched window? It does. So this arched window nestles really nicely inside these 2. So I think we can glue them together and then brad nail them, let them dry, and then we can put our scene in here. So now we're already creating some fatness, some thickness to accommodate our scene here. So that's nice. And let's see if that's enough. I'm going to lay the cathedral window on top and see if we have clearance. Let's see here. Oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh, is my mountain range too big? Oh, dear. Oh, guys, it just clears. I might have to shave just the tiniest bit from here, but I measured this out, which is very rare for me. We don't measure here, you know? And I just have to even out this end here because I have some purple foam still sticking out that I haven't gotten to. So I think if I chop just a tiny bit off here, this will fit in really nicely. And let's see, this ridge here is still the highest part. This is still a little high for me, and we can add another layer to kind of bring this out. But I don't know if that's necessary. What do you guys think? Post in the chat and let me know what you guys think, because yes, I'm debating that. And now I have two others, because say that let me grab this out of the way. So use your imagination that this is still on there. So now we have our window, and we've created enough depth now that we can fit all of our components so they're not like jutting out at you like Frankenstein's castle is not coming into the shop. It's still in the distance. It looks like it's, you know, up on a hill, and I can watch him. I can warn Dr. Frankenstein if the townspeople are coming with the pitchforks. So now we have kind of this situation where we're gonna be drilling holes through this, and wires are gonna be coming out. We're gonna hide wires. But I have no clearance. If this goes up against the wall like this, the wires are going to be getting smashed against the walls, and where am I going to put battery packs and all that? So I decided to add a little more depth in the back so we can have room for all that stuff. So and listen, I used all the wood I have in the shop. So for thicknesses, I probably could have made my life easier just running out and buying another 3/4 panel, you know, but I had this right here, and this is probably a 3/8, I believe. It's the same material that I use for my bench top, my workbench here. So I kind of sacrificed my spare workbench top for this project, but I figure I think I still have some mileage on this, and I can always run out and get another piece. So this is a 3/8 inch, and the first thing you're going to notice is that these pieces are fatter than these pieces right here. These corner pieces are skinnier to fit our piece. And then underneath this, I have a 1/2 inch. So 1/2 plus 3/8, you know, we're thick enough, I think, that we can fit wiring inside this thickness. So let's see what we can put together here, and if this works, because I kind of like did this out of my head, and then sometimes when you put together, you're like, oh wow, I didn't anticipate this, that, or the other. So and then Laser Geek Creations is very much agreeing with me. Always make use of the good scraps. Yes, or else this pile here just starts to get bigger and bigger. And those of you starting with me earlier, remember when it was like this whole wall, and I've been kind of pecking away at this, you know, even if I have to bolt these together or screw them together using pocket holes, that's what I'll do if I can just get through the scraps. So Kid Angel Art is saying, Gearhead Diva, have you heard of static grass? It would look great as an extra texture and realism. So I have not. I've done most of my miniature painting miniatures, meaning miniatures that already have all the texture and all, you know, so then you just dry brush and do wet inking. So I started to go out and get miniature trees. I even have, and of course my castle is on top of it, but it's in these bags. This is kind of like a moss that we can chop up and make flock out of it, you know, from the dollar store. Yeah, to go along with my dollar store foam core. And then I have this green moss that we can use to not only decorate the arch, but also decorate that mountainside, those cliffs. So I'll definitely read back the chat because so many of you have great suggestions on products to check out or things that make my life a ton easier, especially someone who is, doesn't build professional miniatures for a living. We just kind of tackled this and say, let's just do it. We put caution through the wind or throw caution to the wind and try it. And sometimes it's a fail, but other times we're able to salvage it. Like this arch window, it started out as a major fail. And I thought, we might have to change directions, but we were able to salvage it. So I was happy. So let's see here. I have an intruder trying to come in, which I believe is one of my cats. Every time the cats hear me live streaming, they're like, what you doing in there? But if I let them in, then they start playing with all the cords. And they're like, yes, we're finished with your stream. Turn it off. Pay attention to us. So I always got to watch and see. They like to turn the door handles there. So let's see. This was kind of like my idea here, and it's to have these fatter pieces right there. And I thought if I put some Velcro on the back of this, I can Velcro it just like that. Because what if I have to fix it? Listen, this is a Rachel build. Chances are I'm going to have to fix it at some point. So I want to make a provision for that. And so I think that if we just Velcro this on, it'll allow me to go book, and pop it off. And of course, Velcro exactly makes that sound. Not at all. All right, so we have a ton of more people joining us. Dave Wells is back. Next project, Munster. So he is thumbs upping the whole Munsters thing. And then Dave Beck with the blue crumbles that we talked about. Joe G. I know what can be the next project. You can work on a Plymouth Fury like in the movie Christine. Ooh, that used to be my favorite scary car movie. And it was just so cool with like the car locks closing in on you and filling up with water. Yes, I love that movie. A Bounty Hunter is here. Nice progress, looking very good. Yeah, we've made a ton of progress since we started this, and we just peck away at it every week with your guys' suggestions. Valley of Fire, blue lights flickering inside the windows would be so cool. Yes, I think along with the like flickering flame, if we add some blue like zzz, zzz, and some of you even thought about adding sound effects like thunder sound effects when the lightning cracks. And then LA Walker is saying it looks fine. And then David Beck is saying yes, everyone is voting that it looks fine so far. And then Bounty Hunter, nice channeling your inner Frau Blucher. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, FB. Yeah, I don't hear the horses. Maybe they're out in the field, So, and then Laser Geek Creations is saying, yeah, woohoo on the Velcro. And then spackle. Yep, we did a lot of spackling with our arch. I'm like going backwards in time. You guys are too fast for me. And then... Quick Cat is saying, my favorite monster vehicle is the Norton Commando from Vampire Motorcycle after it grew all the spikes. I cannot believe I've never heard of that. Like, I've pretty much watched every vehicular-themed horror show and scary movie you can think of. And I cannot believe I didn't watch that one. So that one's on my list. The other product you mentioned is on my list. And then Kit Angel Arts is saying, am I dual streaming? Yes, so we are streaming right now on YouTube and also on Twitch because certain people prefer, different platforms. So that is such a stupid movie. The gym scene is one of my favorites. Okay, so if Mr. Frightful is referring to the Vampire Motorcycle, stupid monster movies are like my jam. That's even more reason for me to watch it. Oh my gosh. So where were we? Yes. So we're going to Velcro this thing to this kind of fatter, arch window. And we're going to use this space right here to run wires. I think I can hide some slim battery packs. And then I have another idea that I wanted to throw by you guys. So we're building these layers up. And now I can put this on top because this is fatter. And my guy is shifting here. And I hope I got the outsides, mostly mostly straight, you know. Worst case scenario, I'm going to brad nail all these together and then just staple them or brad nail them, which I already said I was gonna do, and then we can sand them outside when it's not raining, right? And also put a base coat of white. So now I have on top of here, so I have a 1/2 inch, a 3/8 inch on the bottom, and that's gonna create our space for wiring and maybe skinny battery packs. Then I have the backing panel, which is 1/4 inch plywood laying on top of that. And now I have our 3/4 inch and 3/4 inch. So somebody keep track of all this math. And then on top of that, we're gonna put our archway, and our archway also sits on 3/4 inch plywood. Now the archway you see is much fatter. This is about 2¼ 2½ inches if I remember, and so it creates kind of like a pocket. See, I can stick my hand all the way up in here, and we're gonna paint all this white so everything matches. And I think that's gonna allow us to hide some really cool ambient lighting. And I thought, when there is no lightning and we want something nice to look at, not only is the castle gonna be flickering and glowing, but we're gonna have like an ambient lighting scheme. Maybe it can so very slightly, so very slowly pulse between like a darker blue, a lighter blue, you know, kind of almost like clouds are passing. So that way the color changes. We are gonna have our real 3D clouds here with that thunder up when a thunderstorm is for real rolling in, and then our EV wire that's gonna come across like this. Maybe I won't do it like a straight down line. Maybe I'll kind of have it come in as a diagonal. I don't know yet. We're gonna figure it out. And if you have suggestions, then definitely post them, you know, because usually you guys come up with some awesome ideas that I borrow for time, you know, and then I give it back. I give it back. So, and then Kid Angel Arts is saying depth and recessing shadow. Oh, reading is difficult because I'm thinking of those drumsticks that David Beck already posted. And I'm like, chicken drumsticks. So yes, and Kid Angel Arts, love me some power tools. Well, of course, like we can't, you know, do these projects without some power tools because that's just no fun. And then Quick Cat is saying, now I want to see Laser do guest CNC spots. Ah, yes, we don't have a CNC machine. That would be awesome. So for now, I'm hand cutting like all this stuff. So you can see that, you know, a couple edges around that need to match up. So I did a quick sanding just to get it roughly right. And none of this is going to be seen on the inside here. So I'm not really worried about like all of the layers perfectly matching up to look like one. We don't have to worry about that. Once we get this together, though, what I can do and get this stapled, I can take this outside and sand it as one. So this entire thing looks like one layer. So let's see how thick this is looking and how much it's going to protrude off the wall. Let me see here. Ooh. And then Quick Cat is saying, I might have gotten into woodwork if I didn't have to hand saw things. Yes, I mean, that's one of the reasons I got into woodwork. You know, I had a circular saw was the first thing I ever bought. Actually, no, the Sawzall. And that's how I did most of my stuff, just with a Sawzall. And yeah, you get kind of not the cleanest cuts, or at least I don't, you know. Other people are like masters, like a ninja with their Sawzall. Not so much me. It just looks like some 5-year-old cut it. And then that's how I got into hand tools, because that's how I was able to just kind of smooth everything out. So I've gotten quite accustomed to hand tools. And I have our trusty, what is this? I rarely use this, so I don't even know the name for it. I'm kidding. Measuring tape. But yeah, we don't do much measuring here. We just kind of go for things and cry later about it. So this is going to stick out a hair over 3 inches for this. That is not bad. I thought we were going to have to do like, I was really trying to stay under 6 inches. So a hair under, that's not really that bad. And I don't know if you guys can tell via the shadow, you know, I'll put my hand, you can see it's basically, you know, my fingers. And I don't know, I am not too disappointed with that. And then I had this other idea that I wanted to run by you, is I have a whole bunch of this leftover purple foam. Would it be cool maybe, because we're gonna have this hanging on the wall like this, and it's gonna be sticking out, you know, maybe a little bit like this, right? And we're going to have lighting coming out the sides, which I think will be cool. But would it be even cooler if we were to make a border of like maybe broken castle stone, you know, and just kind of like as if the window, you know, this is kind of like a wood palette wallpaper, you know, situation going here. And so maybe having this window would be too stark of a difference, and we can make a transition by making cool big blocks of, you know, and these aren't like the little ones on the castle. I'm talking big, you know, brick size looking things. And because this is only 1/2 inch, that still leaves us room to tuck lighting right, you know, underneath this lip, and the lighting will go over the rocks and then splash onto the rest of the wall. And so it'll give the stones kind of a different color. So that is an idea. So you guys can either approve or disapprove, veto it or vote it into effect. And I'll try and keep track of who's winning or which option is winning. And we'll definitely do that too. That shouldn't take too long because it's just kind of carving out similar rocks over and over again. And if we make them big, we're not going to need very many. We can even have some be kind of broken. And the other idea for lighting is I'd like to incorporate a way to use the lightning detector's ability to tell us how far the lightning is and have it somehow display. So you'll notice that, you know, we have some nice PVC trim, and I'm laying it right on the painting here, but you know, I'll clean you. I'll touch you up. And so we have like our nice PVC here, and we got nothing here. It's looking pretty plain. And I did that on purpose because I thought maybe it reads up to 40 kilometers. Maybe we can put a string like of individually addressable LEDs and have it kind of a bar that lights up depending on how many. You know, we'll put 40 LEDs, and however far away the lightning is, that'll light up. And I thought about converting to miles, but then you start getting into fractions and fractions of LEDs, and then I can try rounding it. I think it might get kind of complicated. But I'm welcome to all your guys' ideas on maybe something to do with this kind of plain, ugly thing, you know, that we have going on here. And so let me catch up on all your comments. And then Quick Cat saying, we ended up buying a barrel grater just so I could grate cheese with, yeah. Kit, and she's about to be bisected her finger once removing plastic wrap off a cucumber. David Beck is saying, you can make the whole steampunk wall broken bricks. Oh, the whole wall? Dave, are we going to finish this project this century or not? The whole wall? Secretly, though, I've always wanted to try my own castle crumbling walls with plaster. It's not that tough to do. So now you're putting it in my head. And I don't know, maybe the next stream you guys will tune in and this whole wall will be different. And I'm like, I spent the whole weekend doing this and I haven't slept yet. So, oh, steampunk, yes. And let's see, I think I'm all, oh no, I'm not caught up. And oh no, Q-Cat is saying, I agree with the whole wall. And then in caps, whole wall. Guys, we've been trying to finish this project up for what, like a month now? It's gonna be a while to do the whole wall. But now I'm really thinking about it. Oh, you guys are evil. Keep me working and up the entire weekend now. So I think you guys are liking either the whole stone wall idea or putting the stone border on it. So I will proceed at least with the stone border, and then as a separate project, maybe we can do some stone walling. I do have some bare wall that we can try adding it to. And then if we put this on top of it with our stone kind of border, that might look pretty cool. I am not gonna lie. That's pretty awesome. 1 brick every time subscribes. This is the first time where I'm going to be like, don't anyone subscribe. I want this channel to have 1 subscriber. So I only have to make 1 brick. And that suggestion is from Q-Cat, who's saying that I should make 1 brick every time somebody subscribes. Kit Angel Art is saying, get a minion. I do need some minions in here, don't I? Yeah. And not the yellow kind, because they make too many mistakes, you know, from Despicable Me. We need like other Frankenstein. Igor. We need a shop Igor. Oh yeah, now you guys are giving me an ideas. Can you imagine my ad out on a job board? I need a shop Igor. What that would look like. I would get in trouble probably. Quick Cat is seconding the Igors. So we do need at least one Igor around here to help cut wood and just to add to the coolness of the shop. All right, so if you guys agree with the frame situation I had going on, and yeah, I did pre-cut all that because it is raining outside and I didn't feel like cutting in the rain and getting all you guys wet, you know, because then I'd have to shift all this stuff outside. So I think what I'm going to do is start gluing these layers together, clamp it down, and then we can start like nailing this together. And then if we have time, I'd like to start a stone effect on this window. So, oh wow, we're already up to 100 messages. You guys are like chit-chatty today. That's awesome. So that'll go like that. So I'm going to Velcro you later once I finish putting the other pieces on top. So let's start the glue process, and I'm just going to make sure, yeah, this is the skinnier one. So I'm going to put you here. And the other idea I had, guys, was to get all this brad nailed, and why don't we put a hinge on that white portion of the cathedral window so it can open. And so it hinges open, I can remove my backing panel in case there's a problem, which, you know, eventually months down the line there may be, and then put it all together. So it can be like a window that opens like that. So, you know, all we need is 2 like little hinges. And let me talk and glue at the same time. Talk and glue. And I thought it glued itself shut, which happens all the time. Yeah, Laser Geek Creations, we are a talkative bunch. Indeed, you are. See, it keeps this stuff going. Because I'm not going to lie, I try and pick the funnest, most fun part of the project to stream live and do the boring stuff, you know, on my own at night. But it doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes you got to do some of the boring stuff during the stream. So we have had quite a few watching paint dry streams, which have not been riveting at all. We had watching hot glue gun dry streams. Yeah, not equally as riveting as it sounds. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And so what I'm gonna do is try and line up these little edges, the outer edge as much as possible. I don't really care about the inside edge, especially here, because no one is gonna see this inside edge for this backing panel. Nobody, because our piece is going to be sitting on top of it. So that doesn't matter. It could have come out all jagged and I wouldn't have worried about it. So I'm just making sure the outer edge, so that way I don't have so much of a sanding job. And it's a little bent, so yeah, you can see kind of how it wiggles back and forth, but that's okay. I'm going to continue gluing up the layers, and then all at once we'll clamp it all down. So that way I don't have to clamp, reclamp, clamp, reclamp. And I think I'm going to add a little bit more glue. I think I was a bit stingy on the glue. Because after all, we're painting. I usually, if I know I'm staining, I try and be a little lighter on the glue so I don't have to sand so much. Because glue and stain kind of don't work together. And I just realized my mistake. I get to yapping to you guys. And we're putting on a much skinnier piece. So really what I should do is I have glue everywhere where we're not gonna need glue. And our backing piece goes here. So I'm gonna try and hold this and just kind of wipe this. That was a boo-boo. We're rewinding the project. We're starting over this portion over again. And see, you don't get to see that on YouTube videos. This is the part that people cut out when they screw up. But you guys get to see all that. So if you were to replicate this or build something similar, you can be like, oh, don't get to yapping, you know, like Rachel, because then look what happens. You get glue everywhere where there shouldn't be glue. So now that I've thinned out the glue in the areas that shouldn't have glue, it'll dry, you know, pretty quickly. And now we're gonna put glue where we should have glue. And Q Cat is saying, Igor, fetch the clamps. See, I could say cool stuff like that, you know, if I had an Igor. I'm liking this. I'd have to get like a white lab coat. And you can see I was about to go off the edge, but I'm using glue just on the edge now because that's where our next pieces are. I'm trying to like pay attention now. There we go. And Laser Geek Creations is heading off and he's wishing us an awesome stream. Cool. Well, this is up for a little bit in case anyone wants to catch up. Because I know it is lunch. Sometimes people got to get back to it, you know. The lunch hour is over. So, there we go. That's not too bad. I mean, you guys can see some warbles going on here where things didn't go too well with the jigsaw. But that doesn't matter too much because none of that is going to be visible. I can take a quick sander. I kind of did a preliminary sand just to get the jagged edges off. But we can do a secondary sand. Yeah, if it's preliminary, then we'll do a secondary. So I'm trying to line up this tip over here, the top end of our archway, and the bottom. As long as those are very well lined up, then the rest can be sanded. All the outer edge, so that way it looks really flush. And again, if we do the stone idea, I don't even think I have to do that because this is all going to be covered by our stone border. So heck, I might just throw some white paint on it. Yeah. Cut some corners. Oh yeah. Yes, QCat is saying that if I take this too far, my own neighbors may start turning up at my door with burning torches and pitchforks and things like that. Yeah, I'm going to have to protect my Igor because if he's seen outside cutting wood and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, the neighbors might start to have ideas. So I think I like where that's at. And next one. Now this one's easy on where the glue goes because it can only go one place. Although, you know me, so I think I'm going to put brad nails on this side and also on the other side because my brad nails are 1.25 inches long. And so I think by getting it from both sides, it'll be pretty good. Although glue is awesome. The glue really handles things. And the cool thing with this project is I don't have to worry about glue kind of seeping out the edges or anything like that because I'm not going to be staining this. And then David Beck is saying, how long are your nails? So, the brad nails are 1.25 inches. So this is far too thick. And so hence my idea of hitting it from the top and hitting it from the bottom. And in retrospect, as I say that out loud, I probably should have put these two together, brad nailed them, and then put this together, brad nailed these, and then brad nailed the two pieces, the two, main components together. In retrospect, these projects are all about after the fact, ew, I should have done something. Michael Martin, thank you for the super chat. Loving the channel. Here's a little donation. Hope it helps. It definitely helps. Every donation, $1, 50 cents, $5, everything helps buying sandpaper, glue, brad nails. It's not always the little, the big components that get you plywood, lighting. It's all the little stuff that adds up, sandpaper and brad nails and the consumables, paint, that type of thing. And then Pinball is saying that after I use Titebond glue or any type of brand, unscrew the cap and run water through. Oh, the applicator, yeah. And then it can be disassembled as well. Plastic wrap over threaded bottle, then reattach cap. That is a great idea. I'm going to actually put that into effect immediately after the stream because, yes, I'm usually taking pliers to try and get it off. And if you look at it, it's beginning to get pretty mangled. I'm not going to have a grab point pretty soon here. So great idea. All right. So I think this is pretty good, and I'm going to start brad nailing. And unfortunately, yeah, the nail's only going to go through these two skinny layers here, which means this whole thing can still come off. And then I'm going to be flipping it over and trying to go from the bottom, So I don't even think we're going to need a clamp. The glue is just kind of holding it together. My bottom here is nice and straight, and the top is mostly aligned, you know, a hair. I'm talking like not even a 1/4 inch off. So that's going to be really easy to sand if I decide we even have to. If we do the stones, then we won't have to. And let me, you guys, give you some light. I didn't realize that it was so dark. You know, you guys looking, we're using a Castle Frankenstein lighting up in here, right? So it's going to get a little bit loud, and I'm going to put you guys in a brief intermission. I forgot my safety glasses. So let me go get that real quick, and I'm going to fire this up, and the compressor is going to be running. So turn that volume down. I'll just talk louder and enunciate, you know, over this hot mess right here. All right. It needs air. We're gonna let that run for a while, just for it to fill up with air. Meanwhile, I'm going to use my body to clamp this thing together. Oh, and Pinball is saying that once upon a time, he also used to do the pinball, or the plier method as well. So I think he knows from experience how many glue tips that he's mangled. Oh, Kid Angel Arts is saying, the nail gun. Gimme that nail gun. And then Q-Cat says, what's your accent? So I do get that a lot. I actually don't think I have an accent, but other people have said that I have an accent. So the only thing that I can think of, and I'll get closer to the mic as this thing keeps going. And I'm standing on my tiptoes in order to do that. So the only thing that I can think of is that my family is from Brazil. So the first 2 languages I learned kind of simultaneously, probably I learned Portuguese first, and then closely followed by English. So yes, we are first generation US, my sister and I. So that might be it. Maybe that's something, you know, that might be kind of in there. It's the only thing I can think of. All right. Let's see if it's got enough air now. Yeah, it does. And I did not hold it down. Oh, no, it just ran out. All right, this happened the last time. Like I fill it up overnight, but then it just... We can either pull that out or cut it off. Ah, yes, up the airflow. Yeah, so I just gave it another turn on the nozzle there to see. And Kid Angel's art is saying, we are a Scottish contingent. Awesome. Yes, Kid Angel Arts is also saying slow leak that can be painfully expensive. I think it's my hose because I'm using the little cheap hose that came with it. It's like that cheap little plastic, and I've been meaning to get a better hose, but I'm like, oh, let me just do this project real quick, and then I do it, and I put it aside, and then it just like slips my mind. And then every time I have a project, I remember like, oh, I needed to get that. And I also up the air pressure a little bit. And let's see if it's another fail. Nice, people. We are rocking and rolling. Let's see which is the better view. I guess since I'm down here, we'll do that. And I'm just going to be liberal with my brad nail application. All right, and I'm going to start over here. All right. I have to turn that off for a while. It's like the whole time. Oh, so QCat is saying such a good noise that the nail gun makes. Well, at least somebody likes it. I think it's too, but the, yeah, I don't imitate tools too well. Don't quit my day job. So we have an inch and a quarter nails going through, which is enough for these two 3/4 inch pieces, but definitely not enough for this. So if I were to pull just this top skinny portion off, it would come off because the glue hasn't set yet. So what I'm gonna do now is turn it over and kind of get this from the other side. And yeah, I have some leftover paint because this piece of plywood used to be on my wall because I had wall cabinets, but they were only like 12 inches deep, you know? So I pulled this off and I'm like, put it in the scrap pile. You never know when you're gonna need it. So, okay, I'm gonna turn this annoying thing back on again and we're gonna hit the edges of this entire thing. And that should be good. We'll let the glue kind of set overnight. And then I'll get to just base coating this thing white. And then we're gonna move on to putting a stone effect, which already has a stone effect, but we're gonna dirty up the stone effect on the other piece. All right, loud noises. Scooch. Scooch. Okay. I think we're officially done with that for the time being. Now, in order to really clamp this down and make sure the glue of every layer really melds together, I am gonna clamp this down, which I just said earlier in the sentence. Yeah. All right. I guess I'll put one here. A big old one here. I'm grabbing like the mystery clamps off the side. All right, I think I'm caught up with the comments. You guys were going a little too fast there for me for a bit. Caught up. I caught it. It's trying to run away on me. The project is like, stop stabling me. Get away. This chick is evil. All right. So we have all this clamped down, clamp mania, and I'm gonna move it out of the way over there. So I'll be right back. This is not awkward or anything like that. I'm back. So that is out of the way, and while that dries, and then I'll toss some flat white base coat on it a little bit later, we can start working on this. And like I was saying, it looks awfully white. And when we start putting our aged stone, I think it'll be too white. It's just too clean, you know? Yeah, I think we need to kind of dirty it up a little bit, and we're gonna figure out a way to do that. I think I'm gonna do it kind of similar to how we did the castle and the cliffs. So using a little bit of dry brushing, using a little bit of just ink washes, and see what happens. You know, I don't think we can undo this unless I paint it white again. Let me move our glue napkin away. Actually, I'm gonna toss that and toss that. There we go. And I have my dollar store palette. It's child size. Everything looks child size. So let's see. I think the way I'm going to do this is, let's think about some stone colors. So stone is like brown, it's gray. So I think I'm going to just paint a couple different patches of brown and gray, and then we can dry brush over it to blend it together, and then do like a black ink wash. So I'm thinking that's how I'm going to rock this thing and see what happens. And then if we hate it, which is quite a possibility, we'll just paint it all white again and act like this thing never happened. You know, just the stream will go dead or something, and ooh, splinter, and no one will ever know. So I think I'm gonna start with like a brownie type color, and then I have this gray type color. I think I'm gonna start with these two and figure out what happens. And then yes, Kit Angel is saying acrylic wash. So that's actually what we're doing. A lot of people call it an ink wash, but it's not an ink wash. Now they do make ink washes, but it seems like people use that interchangeably. So we are making an acrylic wash, which is super fancy for where it's gonna water down some paint. That's it. So this is raw sienna, as a couple of you guys are asking. So we're gonna do raw sienna, and this is neutral gray. And then I think we're gonna dry brush with this unbleached titanium and see where it goes. And then for a wash, like an acrylic wash, I have this very dark gray, which has a tinge of blue, which is kind of neat. It's Payne's gray. Or we can do the standard black acrylic wash. And this is my older paint, maybe 20 years old, but I like using it for washes because it declumps it, you know, really well. So I think I'm gonna start with these two, and I'm gonna use like a big old brush like this and try and figure this out. And with these things, it always starts looking really bad before it starts looking good. And then sometimes it doesn't look good, you know, and we have to start over. So I'm gonna start with this this little cubby right here furthest away. And let's just start to splotch some paint on. So I would think in a lab, even in a lab or outdoors, the water kind of runs this way. So the gunk kind of accumulates towards the bottom here. Ooh, dust. So maybe here, and I'm gonna chicken out. I was gonna go in full paint. I'm gonna chicken out and do like a dry brush and just see what happens. You know, we do want to get this color in there, but I'm chicken. I'm not gonna hide it. Ooh, that looks bad, guys. I'm gonna go for it. Let's just do it. Let's just do it, guys. Let's just do it. And I'll hold this so it doesn't make so much noise. Let's just do it. Oh, that's not great. And Kit Angel Art says, I do acrylic painting. Thank God. Please help me. Please help us here so we get this going in the right direction. But my theory is that I'm gonna do this once we have like the dry brush of the bleached white, or I guess it's like a bone color. I think it'll be okay. I think it'll be okay. But I'm getting a little braver now. Look at me. We're gonna add more. Oh yeah. Be brave. And Chevy Tom has joined us now. Awesome. Welcome, Chevy Tom. And I think I'm going to try and put some gunk kind of where this trim meets. And I probably should be using a round brush instead of a brush like this. It's too precise. And this wood is kind of rattling around just a little bit. Let me see if I can add something you know, like a chair leg when you go to a restaurant and that table's just wobbling on you. There, I added a little bit of so I think we're adding some gunk here, and I'm gonna keep going. Like right now, just looking at this, I have like a strong urge to chicken out because it's not looking very good. But I'm trying to see the future of this once we keep going. And I think the future looks bright. I know it doesn't look like it. And I'll go a little bit over here, which you guys can't really see, but maybe I can move it just a little bit. And then Kit Angel Arts has a suggestion for permanence. I would say you need acrylic flow medium or PVA glue to keep its helical shape when it dries. So I do have Mod Podge, which I use to seal the foam, you know, the foam miniatures that we've done. So I'm assuming you're talking about protecting this once the paint job is done and our acrylic wash is nice and dry, in order to put like a top clear coat on it. Obviously that's not shiny or anything like that, and that would help kind of protect our paint job, is what I assume you mean. If not, please explain. All right, so we have some gunk building up on the bottom here, and I think we can gunk up a few areas on the top. So I think if I stick with, you know, kind of near the trim edge pieces, because we still have to add our gray. And I think I'm going to stick with these colors for now. Maybe add a little moss. I say we add some green towards the bottom there and see what happens. As long as this thing is not super stark white, I think we're good. And I think I'll go over here. I'm trying to like not have them in the same line as each other so it doesn't look obvious of what we're doing. So this is my first stone effect on top of spackle. And we'll see how that whole thing ends up turning out. But I think in the end, if it doesn't look the way we want, that dry brush is going to really fix things. It's really going to fix things. And then when we add the ink wash, that always tends to tie the colors together. Sometimes it's like way too stark of a difference until you do that. And I'm going to kind of crud up this corner here and see what happens. Okay, Angel Arts is saying phthalo blue, which is one of Bob Ross's most used colors for sky paintings. And oh, you might have missed our Bob Ross painting, you know, like we did for our starry night or our stormy sky, although we did it with acrylic, so of course it looks different than oil paint. But I thought I can make it more stormy. Plus acrylic's what I already have and what I've had toyed around with, you know, myself, and feel most comfortable using the acrylic paints. And I use them more than the model paints only because you can get so much. And yes, you can buy bigger model paint bottles and things like that. But, okay, I think I'm going to quit with this color. And I'm not even really going to dry my brush. I'm just going to go for the gray. And I'm going to pop some gray on there. See, where you guys can see it. And let's grayify some of this stuff. And I think I'll add some gray here. Ooh, this is scary, guys. Kind of make this look dingy. And we are going to be putting, I think, like our indicator lights here. So that'll look pretty good. Like it's coming out of the stone or something. Or I may end up, after doing all this work, putting in something that looks like a metal panel and having our like a metal panel with indicator lights, and the window kind of butts up to that. So I haven't completely decided on that one yet. And because we have some color here and kind of nothing going on here, I think I'll just give this guy a little love. He needs a friend, like Bob Ross would say. Give him some friends. And I'm kind of using just some older brushes that are great for this kind of stuff because you don't have to worry about gnarling up the bristles. And on Twitch, I think every day Bob Ross does have his painting show on. So I do catch myself when I know when I should be doing other work. I'm sitting there watching Bob Ross out of the corner of my eye because his painting techniques are so simple and yet things look really cool. I think I'm going to use a little more gray than I did the brown. The brown's a little scary, I'm not going to lie. And, oh, QCat is confirming. Yes, there's a 24-hour. I didn't know it was 24-hour. Oh, now that you said that, now I'm really not going to sleep. I'm just going to be watching Bob Ross all day and night. I like his ocean-style paintings. The ones with the cliffs that then he does the water, because water is something that's always looked so complicated. I never thought, oh, I'll be painting water, and I haven't yet. I haven't jumped there. Maybe we can do another project or another scene where we can do some water and practice, and see how close to Bob Ross we can get. Or as I say, if I can even achieve his lesser known cousin, Ross Bob's, painting ability, I'll be happy. And then, QCast is also saying, apart from when they have to shut down to comply with Twitch rules. Yeah, I'm wondering if because of licensing, they can only stream so much of it before that licensing is up, and then they gotta shut it down. I've caught Mystery Science Theater, which used to be one of my favorite shows. Oh my gosh, I love the commentary. It's great. That's a great show. Let me hold that so it doesn't bang, 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 bang as we're tapping along. And then I think I'm just going to tap in some gray where the whites are. Trying to decide, where do I need more gray? Maybe here. And I'm curious about the next step. It's like, will it kind of blend the way in my head I envision this thing blending? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Because I am having to base coat the backing of this, and then this will be on a hinge and it'll open and close. So I will have to be base coating that, and I'm hoping I don't have to base coat this because it turned out all nasty. All terrible and embarrassing. And as I work my way out, the brush is kind of just melding with the spackle. And that's the one thing I learned about spackle, is that once you spackle everything, you do have to seal it. Oh my gosh, do not be painting directly like very wet wise. Just using regular paint is fine, but if you're going to use an ink wash on top of spackle, yeah, it turns into a mush again. It like reverts back to its prior self. So definitely at least get some kind of base coat on there, or else you're going to have mush stone effects. And then Pinball is saying that the Bob Ross channel is scheduled to come to Roku on May 18th. Ooh, good to know. That's awesome. All right, I think we're pretty much dirtied up. And it looks terrible right now. I'm hoping that we're going to turn this around. And I'm afraid to add too much paint because then our ink wash won't be as pronounced over the white. But I think if I just kind of give everything a once over. especially if it's on kind of the raised edges. Our dry brushing is going to take care of that anyways. All right, and do I want to add any more of this brown? I probably shouldn't, but I think I'm going to go for it here. Oh, I'm going for it, people. Like, if you're going to make a mistake, like, do it all out. Like, just go for, really botch it up if you're going to botch it up, is what I say. We're going to, for real. Not even messing around this time. And trying to think of where else to, you know what? This is like really white right here. Let me move myself. Look at that. That's got like nothing on it. So I think we need to put a little bit of something. Let me put a little bit of gray down there. I said I was done with the gray, but I lied. I lied. And Pinball just checked, so the channel is a go. So maybe they've done it early. That's good. All right, I'm just gonna kind of add some squiggles up in here. And I think we have kind of just coverage everywhere, just about, just so it's not so stark white. Because when I got done the project, I thought that the stone effect looked so good, but it was just so white. And I'm like, nope, this is kind of more of a grungy Frankenstein inspired, you know? Even for the monsters, they don't have like all pretty roses and stuff everywhere. They have some nice grunge and a lot of dust. And I believe Lily Munster would even redust. She would put that vacuum cleaner on reverse and put dust on stuff instead of taking dust off of stuff. All right, I think let's stop there and see what happens. Now it's gonna get interesting. So I think I will use a different brush. Let me see what I got going on here. Got this guy here. I think I'll use this. Let's see, maybe some of this needs to dry just a little bit. And I promised you all we wouldn't do a paint dry watching type of stream, but it's kind of turning into that. So, oh, one more thing. Let's add some moss color. That's one thing we didn't do. And that's very green. Check that out. That's a bit much. That's a bit much. So why don't I add some of this gray to it just to kind of knock out that limey line. And also I'm going to add a little bit of the bone to lighten it up too, which makes no sense. I'm going to add the dark gray to darken it up, and then I'm going to add the bone to lighten it up. So we're doing both at the same time. Let's see what we come up with here. That's a better green. That's like more of a mossy green. Desaturated a little bit, I guess was the word that I was looking for. And then Cute Cat is saying, okay, well, I think the brown totally works with the gray over top. Yeah, I think so too. Then separate, you know. So I did some sections that are over top and some sections that are separate just to kind of see how both sections turn out. And then we can always, you know, once the acrylic wash dries, kind of go back over it. And for the moss, I'm going to kind of put it in the crevices here. Oh dear. That's pronounced. I'm just going to kind of random dabs along the bottom, because this will remind me of areas, even if it doesn't blend that well, where we can put real moss, like miniature moss. And I have a whole bunch of that we can use. And I'll probably just kind of keep this moss towards the bottom here and not put too much on the top. And I think if it doesn't go directly over the white, it looks a ton better. Let me go over here. I'm gonna have to like get my big old head in the way of you guys. Kind of like fade that out. And then do the same. And I lied. I'm going to put a little bit here, just for interest. I'm a big liar. We have some on the top and on the bottom. There we go. I'm going to be sparing with it, even though I have a bunch more, but in case I decide later on not to be so sparing with it. So for our ink wash, I'm going to start prepping that. So I'm going to grab a cup of water, which is in the other room. So I'm going to put you guys on a brief intermission. I'm just going to go grab a cup of water for us to be able to start these mixtures. And that'll give this time to just dry just a little bit more, where we're going to do our bone dry brushing over all of this. That's going to start to subdue a lot of these colors and hopefully blend them together. And then our ink wash or acrylic wash is going to cover all these really white stark areas, are going to be deepened with like a dark black. And then hopefully that'll just help us have all this together. You know, fingers crossed. So I'll be right back. All right, I am back with some water. You know, the key ingredient to our acrylic wash. Kind of doesn't work without it. So I have this clean brush that is dry. I've tried doing dry brushing with a brush I used wash. It was still kind of wet, and it just muddies everything up. So, and it makes that sound effect too. While you're doing it, you're just listening to that, and it's pretty disappointing. So let's see. I'm gonna leave you here for now. And where is my bone color? I'm gonna put him here, and let's see how, like, some of these areas here are more dry, so we can try and go for them with our bone. And because this is a dry brush, I'm gonna prepare a little napkin here, or a paper towel, where we can wipe a lot of our bone off. All right, where am I gonna start? Maybe here? I could probably do this. Oop, that's a bit much. Calm down there. I think even just the bone on the white is going to really start helping the white not be so chiclet white too. It's going to start looking more like a tan, a cement, like a lot of the stonework that we see not only in the Castle Frankenstein that we put together, our foam miniature, but just in castles, I think, in general. I don't think you have like super white. And even the white isn't really white. I'm just going over the, let me move myself. I'm concentrating on this inner portion here. Let me see if I can give you guys a better view. And move this guy over here. So for now, it looks like nothing's happening. So I ain't gonna lie, that's kind of scary. But the idea of the dry brushing is that it just catches the raised area, so you see the other colors kind of underneath. And I think that's blended in pretty well there. And then after the acrylic wash, if it ends up turning out too dark, you can just add another layer of this bone. But this bone was awesome for our castle. And because we're using very similar colors that we used for the castle and the cliffs, everything will tie together. So you don't have these like really crazy different looking stones. And now I'm going to back you guys out a little bit and just kind of continue here. Now I'm going to do the other side and just catch those raised edges. Now it's beginning to knock some of the white out. It's kind of tough to tell on camera, but it's doing what I thought it would do. What I thought. Ooh, that's a bit much. It's a bit much there. And as I do this, it is blending in with some of the other colors, which is nice because now it's kind of blending the whole thing together. And I'm right behind where you guys can't see. I'm like sneaky doing some painting, and if it looks bad, I'll just like keep myself over there so you guys can't see anything. Be all sneaky, but no. We do this live to show, you know, the oops moments and the, oh, this idea didn't work out too great. Because in some respects, those are more important than just watching stuff work. Because then you never have to think outside the box in terms of like, well, now how do we fix it? And it's not like other people don't make the same mistakes. They definitely do. But I'll show you guys. I'll rock my mistakes. I don't mind. Yeah, David Beck is saying, I see what you did there. Bone white Frankenstein. I think that movie is still available. I think it was Hulu or something like that. I still have not caught it. So it's going to be like perhaps a next weekend movie night for me. So I'm kind of avoiding this channel right here because it's still pretty wet. So I'm going to come back to it after we've done kind of this raised area here. And hopefully some of this is beginning to subside and look more natural. And I am going heavy with this dry brush. So it's not exactly a dry brush. I would call it a overbrush. Yeah, an overbrush of the dry brush. So the brush isn't completely just barely having paint on it like you would normally do a dry brush. And it's nice. It still catches those edges that are raised, but because you are, I guess I'll call it overbrushing, it does mix with the color below, which is kind of nice and begins to just get everybody on the same page. Because we had some really different start colors going on, and then it starts to kind of come together. Like the Beatles say, come together right now. Oh, I better not sing too much of it. The copyright gremlins will get me. Like, we hear copyrighted music on your stream. We shut you down. Right, here is the tip that gave us so many problems when we were putting this thing together. And now it's looking way more blended. And I think what I'll do is, even though I think it needs more, I'm going to hold off on like a second layer of this dry brush or overbrush, however we want to call it. And I'm going to do the ink wash and then let it sit, really dry up, see how that looks. And if I still think it needs to lighten up, like you can see this area is hella dark right here, you know, and when we put the ink wash, it's just going to darken everything. So after the ink wash dries, and it's got to be totally dry, then you can come in and do another coat of the dry brushing, and it makes a huge difference because the ink wash is really, this begins to unite it, but it's really the ink wash that makes everything look as one, especially when you got so many different wild colors going on here. And once that ink wash dries and everything looks like one, you can add back the highlights, which brings out all of your stone spackle textures that I did. And the spackle seems to be holding up, which is good because I didn't know there for a second. I thought I did a pretty good job with, you know, with laying a good base coat to make sure that I seal this properly, because I've learned my lesson in the past with spackle. It's really great for stone effects. Even if you carve your own foam, what you can do is mix a little bit of spackle and water, go with that first, and that'll add a nice rocky texture to your rock carvings. And then after that, of course, to seal the foam, I like to use, instead of spray paint, because the propellant can eat your foam. Like we saw, I showed you guys a couple of examples of some trial foam pieces that I painted. So instead, I like to use a 50-50 mixture of Mod Podge and the color, the base coat color that I want to use. So that's always worked out really well for me. And I'm going to go back in here now that this is more dry and go in with this dry brush. So right now I'm concentrating on the raised PVC trim areas, and then I'm going to hit these channels up a little bit later once it's had just a little bit more of an opportunity to dry. And to the naked eyeball, this is actually looking pretty good. I'm not quite sure how the camera catches the colors. Hopefully well. Hopefully it doesn't look like poop. And you guys are like, wow, she's like impressed by this. This is terrible. All right. Doesn't take much to impress me though, so I will put that out there. I impress easy. All right, let me put a little bit more bone in here. That might be a bit much. And I'm going to go for it. I know this area is still kind of dry, but I'm going to go for it. There we go. Not so bad. Could have been more dry, you know, before I did that, but I like the mixture of the bone and the other colors. I think that's making a really great base. And a lot of the white is disappearing and turning more into this bone color. And whatever white that I don't get, well, our ink wash or acrylic wash will get. And so I think that, I'm going to kind of mimic the bone color here. And maybe go a little heavier on the bone on the insides. And the reason I didn't go black base coat was because I didn't want that dark, dark stone look, especially since we weren't really doing that with our castle. I wanted this to look more like, if you think of like Notre Dame and those, or Notre Dame, those structures overseas in Europe, a lot of their stone is a lighter colored stone. So at first, when we first started this project, that's kind of what I was going for. But then once we started adding our miniature scene and all that, then it started to, you know, change the nature of the project. But I still think white for this color scheme was the way to go. And we did something similar with our clip. For the foam castle miniature, we went with a black base coat and then started to kind of lighten it up through overbrushing and dry brushing. And for our cliff, we went opposite. We started with a white base coat and started to darken it up by using just a series of progressive acrylic washes over and over again to kind of create the different looks. Making sure I wasn't covering you guys. You guys could see what's going on. So all in all, except for, you know, the spots I didn't hit, but the spots that I hit, it's beginning to look more uniform. You don't see that huge splotch of gray or huge splotches of the brown. And then these areas that I haven't hit yet, hopefully they'll start to also blend before we put in our true blending technique, which is the ink wash. And I should probably get some kind of towel or something so it doesn't end up all over the table. A little bit more. Wipe off some excess. And there we go. Yeah, that really starts to blend in pretty nicely. I'm going to pick up the palette a la, you know, Bob Ross. You know, he's always with his palette like this. I should probably look somewhat professional and do the same. Like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Hey, listen, we're faking it till we make it, right? With this archway. Eventually it'll start to look good. I promise. But even then, like, we're working our way to this spot and we're going to start to blend this spot. So if you look all through here, this is beginning to look the same minus a couple spots that I haven't hit yet. But this area here is beginning to look more uniform. And so we're basically just mimicking that all up and down this thing. And here I'm beginning to hit this spot. And we'll see how that does. Does it tone it down a little bit? And it does, yeah. So you see that brown kind of deep inside the spackle, because that's how dirt and grit kind of accumulate. They just kind of go into the crevices, and then you see the bone sitting on top. And that's the more clean area. So I'm just looking, I think I got all sides here. Here I'm definitely missing from here. I spaced, I didn't do this area here. The outside, I guess it's like towards you guys, so I don't really see it. So I'm like, oh, it looks pretty good. And no, it doesn't. It does not look good. And so when you apply your overbrush or dry brush, as that paint dries, it does dry dark. And so that's what kind of helps to blend with the underlying. So the bone in the beginning, when I was adding it, I was like, whoa, it is way too stark. Way too contrast. And so now it looks like you have 4 separate colors going instead of just kind of a mixture of very similar colors. And that's the objective. And I think now I can hit here because it's way less wet. It's the word I'm looking for. And let me move myself. And there I go again. Getting in here and then getting out here. It's the out here that I'm missing. And hopefully when we do our acrylic wash, this thing isn't going to melt on us. So I think I did base coat it pretty well. I put quite a few layers on it, but you never know. It was kind of raining when I was doing it. All right, so Pinball's got all the insider info on Bob Ross and his Roku channel. Oh, and he's on Pluto TV too. I like Pluto TV. There's a lot of great shows for free on there. There's ads and stuff too, but you know, that's what you get for free. They gotta support themselves somehow, right? but you can always catch a lot of great content on there. And some long form YouTube content as well, like some of the YouTubers that create longer type shows. Sometimes you can find that stuff on Pluto TV. They make deals with them. And so I'm just painting the inside here, our bone, because I didn't realize. I was like, oh, that's a little white. You know, let's get rid of that. And then I just have to hit up here, I think, and then we are done. But you can see, looking back, there is no, you know, noticeable, here's a brown splotch, and here's a gray splotch, and here, you know, now it's all kind of, you can still see some of the hint of green poking out, which I hope that we can, you know, put some moss coming out of the edge of these trim. You know, it just looks like the moss is coming from the outside to the inside, because of course we are inside the shop, so it doesn't make sense to put vines and a whole bunch of moss coming out. But there could be cracks, you know, along our stone border now that I'm going to have to create with potentially an entire wall, the way you guys are going. So you guys are keeping me busy. We're not building Legos, which I love building Legos. Legos and models. It's like a nice, relaxing weekend thing to do. And I haven't done a model in quite some time. I have a stock of them that I have to get to. All right, I think I pretty much boned everything, paint everything, and except for this area right here. So let me take care of that real quick. And just adding a overbrush this way. And see how, like, just even that section is way more blended than this. And as this bone dries, it's going to get darker, and it's going to just look as one. It's going to blend into these darker colors a lot better, which is why I think after the ink wash, I'm going to hit this all up again with bone, and just very slightly, a couple highlights, especially around the outer edges of white again. And I know I said, oh, it's too white, it looks like a chiclet, but that'll just kind of give us a couple more highlights over these raised edges. And I think that'll look nice. But yes, now we can see this is beginning to look more one instead of like a, whoops, splotchy like that. And I just totally splotch that. I'll just see if I can spread it around. When you make a mistake, just spread it around. Spread that mistake around. And I'm going to go in just a little bit more. Back and forth. And I think that's it, guys. I think we've pretty much added our splotchy stone effects with gray, and then with raw sienna, and then we tied it together with an overbrushing coat of bone. Or in this case, it's called unbleached titanium. And then after the streams, I usually, you know, recall everything that I use, and I make a shopping list for you guys. If you want to imitate some of these, you can, heck, by all means, improve upon them. And then definitely post your work for me to see. I love seeing you guys build cool things. It inspires me and gives me good ideas to try out on my own when you take something that we build and just make it better. That's awesome. So I'm moving this paint aside. I'm moving a lot of these paints aside, and I think this is drying up nicely, and I'm going to attempt a ink wash. So let's prepare something here. Maybe I can use these two cubby holes right here, and I'm going to use this really old, probably 15-ish year old paint, and kind of just lay some here. And we're going to add, oh yeah, that is chunky. Look at that. That is super chunky right there. See how this consistency is like liquidy, and you can actually see grit in there? Yeah, that's my old chunky paint, but it'll work. And I'm going to use maybe a brush this size. And And this is just another dollar store craft brush or craft store, and you can buy a whole bag of them for not very much. And the nice thing there is that, you know, if you forget to wash it, or, you know, you have to stop mid-project and to check up on something, and then you come back and the whole thing is dried, you don't have to feel so bad about it. Let me, I will use this water. This will be my brush washing water. Or spatula paint mixing water. And, ugh, gross. All right, I'm gonna start to mix this chunks. And we're right next to the green. It's okay if we mix with the green, I think. And instead of going with the gray, I think I'm going full black. I'm just pushing down to make sure all the chunks, oh, some chunks over here. Let's break you up, chunks. Ooh, some nasty chunks. And I think what I'll do is, this idea is not great. I should have just mixed this in a cup. But again, I was chickening out. I was gonna mix just a little bit and see what happens. And David Beck is making a fair point. The bone white dries darker like the skeleton in the castle lab, indeed. Until we wake him up, of course, with our lightning detector. If we know lightning is coming, we can get all set up and ready to awaken our creation. And hopefully by then, I'll have a Shop Igor to help me out with stuff, because that's probably, of all the stream comments and ideas, I think that one's probably the best. We definitely need Shop Minions, or best yet, a Shop Igor. All right, and I think I'm going to finish the chunks with this brush. I'm just gonna, I can totally see the chunks in there, but we're gonna go for it. We're gonna go for it. And I think the way I'm gonna do this is, instead of having this laying down, I'm gonna try and mimic water coming down a castle wall. And even though we're inside, you know, perhaps Frankenstein has some plumbing issues. You know, you never know. So I'm going to stand this up and try and, I'm going to be kind of blind here, but I'm going to try and do this in a way that the water runs from the top to the bottom. And I'm using my chin as a pointing device for this. All right. Now we definitely don't want chunks in this. So hopefully, maybe I can just put this in water like that to de-chunkify and just come up. Is it dribbling? No, it's way too much. You want it to dribble. We got a tiny bit of dribblage. I know this is kind of like off camera for you guys. And we're just gonna have this kind of like dribble down. And the consistency we're getting here, where my thumb is the consistency we want. The consistency up top is a bit much. So I'm gonna keep throwing water on it, and it's already improving. I'm gonna keep throwing water on that just to thin it out a little bit more. That's what happens when you work with chunkified paint. And it looks like our spackle is indeed holding up. And very similar to the effects we saw with our boulder or with our cliffs that Castle Frankenstein sits on, this just starts to seep into those crevices. But the raised areas are going to be much lighter in color. But because it's also diluted, we'll still be able to see these browns, these greens, these grays pop open. So I'm going to add a little more of these chunks here. I'm going to grab all this and add it to my cup here and add a little bit of a darker effect. And the wash, you can always darken it. You know, if you do one pass and then you're like, oh, it's too light, it didn't do anything, it looks lame. You can always do another pass and re-darken it. I'm making a bit of a mess on my table here, but I don't think it matters. We're good. And if you get it to dribble down, then it looks more natural, I think. A couple areas I missed here. Kind of get into the crevice between the PVC trim, because that's really where the darkness would be. All right, I'm gonna mix up some more, and I'm just going to make a mess down here and clean it up off the floor in a little bit. Let me just spread this black. I just noticed I have a whole bunch of black here, which if I move myself out of the way, you guys might be able to see. Like this tip corner here is still very, very black, so I'm just gonna add a whole bunch of water and hopefully just really dilute that down so it doesn't darken all the cool work that we did too much. All right, now I'm going to mix up some more and we're going to get this back on the table to where you guys can actually see what the heck is going on. And I'm going to move this aside. We're done with that. Because this is super chunky, I'm just going to... That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I promise that wasn't me. I'm not that good. I'm not that good at just like, oh, I'm gonna time this perfectly. Weak. You know, that doesn't work with me. I know some people are like, can do orchestra music back there, but that's not me. So Mr. Frightful has a good tip. He's saying that that's why, instead of doing what I'm doing, which is, you know, not the best way to do it, at least if you're going to do it my way, use newer acrylic that hasn't chunkified over the years. But, and we were talking about the difference between ink washes and acrylic washes. What I'm doing is an acrylic wash, even though I interchangeably call it ink wash, which is incorrect. He's saying that the reason he started using and I'm assuming it's a he because it's Mr. Frightful. If not, I apologize. This is why I started using ink to make my washes. It's super fine pigment and pigment rich, and it mixes instantly. That's true. You don't have to sit here like a witch at a cauldron the way I'm doing it. Like, ooh, the Eye of Newt is not runny enough. It's chunky. And Pinball is saying, blame the dog. I will indeed, because he was the inspiration for our fart detector that we built a couple months back. Oh, there goes my paint job. All right, let's see here. Get my cup. And let's see what we got going on. If I miss a spot, let me know, guys. Hawkeye. And nicely running into the corners here. So yeah, they actually do make liquid that is ink, and it just runs, from what I hear, it runs on super smooth. You don't get as much of the splotching sometimes that you do with acrylic, because you can, you know, you have to make sure it's really mixed consistently. And if it's not, sometimes you'll go on like we just did up here and get a big old splotch. And then you're sitting there racing against the clock trying to thin it out. But once you get kind of a big splotch there, then you do get some of those chunks that embed themselves. And it's kind of tough to get them out. So the ink wash is very, very nice. But we're going with what I have for this, which is a whole bunch of old paint. Except some of these newer ones. I do have newer paint. All right. I'm trying to like look over you guys. I'm getting all up in your space right here. And let me do the inside. That way the inside is not like super bone colored and the rest is dark. So I'm going to add in a little more black. Let's see if I can lean this against my arm while I do this. Add in a little more black here because my wash is more like gray. It's not super dark. Let me use this. Mix up the chunks. Campbell's Chunky Soup. hear it, you know, when you can hear the chunks. All right, so, ooh. That's dark. You know what? I think I like that. I like that. Hold up. This might look kind of neat. Because otherwise, we're getting a lot of gray. And then I will water this down. There we go. That's more the consistency I want. Let me water this down a little bit more. And thankfully, my spackle is holding up. I haven't hit up this area at all, so let's do that. I barely hit up this area. And I'm going to leave this sitting up like this to dry. And then I will come back. I usually post photos for you guys on social media just to show the progress of things, you know, at night when I'm working. And whether something worked out really well or not so well, and what I'm doing to correct it. And I didn't get this side at all. So let's go ahead and get that. And I think, let me take a look here. I'm gonna lean this back. Lean back. Lean back. And kind of shimmy my way back and take a look. Did I miss anything? Kind of over here. I didn't get a crevice, which is probably the most important areas to get are these. Oh, it's because I can't see it. All right, I'm going to get all up in your guys' space here for a sec and just kind of get up on that crevice. And let me just, I'm going to grab this water. I'm getting it all over myself. So this is clean water with no paint. And basically I'm using it to just kind of dilute this area down a little bit. It's a bit much. Knock it off. Knock it off with your darkness. See, that's already looking a ton better. There we go. So that lightened up. That area was like really dark in comparison to the other side. So that's done. Let me just wash off. Instead of inking, I'm inking off things just by doing another coat of just plain water. No color. Just to take off the excess. All right, and I think this looks pretty good. It is like dripping wet. So I'm gonna move it here, and I am getting thumbprints all over this. So let me do a final kind of situation there. And I think I'm gonna try and add a paper towel somewhere. Yeah, this was planned out like really good, as in not at all. This inking portion, normally you acrylic wash your miniature so you have everything kind of contained to a table, but this is quite a huge piece. So I'm gonna try and kind of tilt it this way and clean the bottom of it before I put it down on the ground. Gonna leave it all like that. Grab that ink without really affecting the side we can see. And let me see if I can just very gently, using the edges that we didn't paint, I'm going to just lay it like this. And I did a whole pirouette for you guys. I have no idea why. But I'm going to lay this guy kind of against the wall here. Super gentle. and let him just continue draining down, and just, all the colors are nicely mixed, and, let that settle for a couple hours here, and I'm going to clean up this mess. But I will be back with the final results of this. The only thing that I'm going to do left is put in a stone, but probably a little bit of white too, just to give that stone a couple highlights, because it basically lost all the highlights in our dry brushing, and then now we're going to add it back. So I think it's going to look great. It's looking pretty old cathedral. So I think something that Dr. Frankenstein and Frau Blücher, FB would be really proud of, and something that Igor can maintain, because, he needs work to do around here. So thank you guys for joining me. This Wednesday is our Wrench Army exclusive stream. So that means that if you are a Wrench Army member, this stream never makes it out to the public. And what we're going to be doing in that stream is, we talked about lighting effects for this. We've painted a whole bunch of foam miniatures, but there's one component that I think will really make our lightings stand out, our lighting scheme. And that's adding a tiny fog machine inside Frankenstein's castle that will periodically and perhaps randomly go off. And with the lighting scheme, that fog will catch all of those lights as it's escaping the roof of Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. So we're going to figure out how to compress something and just kind of DIY our own fog machine on Wednesday. So consider joining the Wrench Army. Your eyeballs already are a ton of help. It tells people that what we're doing here is pretty fun, it's pretty cool, or heck, come check out this atrocity. So one way or the other, people are stumbling by and finding what we're doing. But if you join the Wrench Army, you have even more live streams, up in your neck of the woods. Also, you guys get to chime in and really help be instrumental in determining what projects we're going to do next. We've done monster movie themed. We've done electronics projects, woodworking projects. So definitely get on Discord and let me know what you guys want to see. So until then, I got a lot of work to do, and I'll see you guys soon.